listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans, with 3 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Well, this week we discussed the amazing comeback at Sandy Park. 4 tries in 14 minutes, something mental like that. Once we got through that, we will look forward to the doubleheader against Saracens at Ashton Gate with help from our friends at Fezcast Pod. We will also go through a few other little things that have come up in the week in response to things that were mentioned on the pods before. But I'm Pete and I'm joined by Lee and Miles for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter from the Bristol Beer Factory Tap Room. Well, boys, we're back at the Tap Room this week.
We are.
Bristol City aren't playing this afternoon.
Thank goodness.
Which is... although I did think, Miles, you were a little bit rude about football fans last week when you were saying that if we were doing it in the thing, there'd be fighting and all that sort of stuff.
No, I mean, you say because it was Cardiff.
It was Cardiff, that's why. It was,
yeah. It probably was.
Actually,
probably were a few arrests. Yeah.
No, that's good. No, that's good football knowledge.
Thank you.
Good football hooliganism knowledge. That. Well
that's the only football knowledge I know.
Yeah, well done. So anyway, we had our 1 week sabbatical back at the pod studio with my dirty washing on the radiator, but we're back at our spiritual home. And we should say, boys, that as usual, we have been looked after very well by our very, very, very good friend and pod contributor, Lewis, deputy manager. And what are we drinking tonight, boys?
We're drinking Say My Name.
Say My Name.
Which is a lovely 5% IPA. US IPA.
Absolutely lovely.
It's got a really nice taste to it.
It's banging, isn't it?
Should we mention this as well?
Yeah, I think we should.
I think we should also mention we have some other drinks with us. We have a champagne bucket full of ice.
Full of ice, but not just full of ice.
But not just full of ice, and not champagne, but in fact, full of beers of Say My Name, the aforementioned beer. And apparently these have been bought for us by a friend of the pod and erstwhile, it's Jamie. And we mentioned him last week. Jamie is the guy who was kind of embarrassed at the Rec when he went to the Apero bar to ask for some discount based on us telling listeners that it was
based on Pete.
Based on me. And I kind of slightly... I did apologise last week about the whole situation. And maybe
we were going to offer to buy him a beer in the next match.
We offered to buy him a beer, and then we turn up tonight, and Jamie, very, very kindly, has already bought us a beer, and we
behind the bar,
and it was behind the bar. And I mean, it was an amazing gesture. We had a bit of bants with Jamie off, in the Facebook, and sort of, apologise for it. But I think it was all quite good tongue in cheek, and I think he's genuinely enjoys the pod.
Yeah.
So
we really appreciate that as well.
Massively appreciate it.
And obviously, on that note, we should say if any other listeners do, want to contribute in the same way.
Yeah.
Then
jot down the Beer Factory Tap Room.
Absolutely, we're here to drink them.
Put some cans behind the bar.
In fact, we could just put the logo on the champagne bucket, just so people know which one it is that they've got to put it in. Anyway, so cheers for that, JB. So, boys, we're here. I mean, again, another fantastic game of rugby. Just in terms of the spectacle for the neutral, but also for Bears fans. And I mean, boys, as you know, I was actually been away this weekend on my annual invitational golf weekend with a few friends.
You've been up with the ferrets, haven't you?
I was up Derby.
Ferret for a walk.
Yeah, we're up slightly up north. It was Beardsall Priory Country Club. Very nice. Nice. 2 rounds of golf. So I was aware of what was going on. I have managed to watch some of the highlights, but I kind of had notifications on my phone. And I think in the space of me getting through a par 3, we'd scored like 30 points or something like that. So right. I had to kind of review it all afterwards. And then, of course, looking at our socials, the socials were going mental.
It was brilliant.
Afterwards.
Brilliant.
And we do appreciate, again, lots of responses for fans and listeners who are using our platform to sort of say what they think.
I mean, there's nothing better when you're on a crest of a wave like that. I mean, that ending was nuts, wasn't it, Miles? It was absolutely bonkers. And there's nothing better than to continue that ending with the listeners. It's just fantastic because we're all a collective, aren't we? And it's brilliant. I love it.
I think one of the favourite posts that I read was, I think it was John Wood,
Yeah.
good friend of the pod.
Yes.
He had said something like, it was 60 minutes of boredom followed by 10 minutes of ecstasy. And I think my reply was, sounds like a night out with Miles Clark.
Cheeky.
10 minutes? That's pushing it a bit, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So anyway, boys, I know you watched the game.
I watched the whole game.
The whole game live.
It didn't do my ticker any good at all watching the whole game.
I must admit, when I was on about the 15th, I saw that we were 32-12 down.
Yeah.
You must have put your phone away and
with
thought,
12.
I'm ready for the bar now.
And I thought everything that we said last week on the pod, that Chiefs are there for the taking. Yeah. They've got a very average halfback pairing. We're on fire. We just got to go down there, strike early. Don't give them anything. I'd completely gone out the window.
Well, I think Miles was worried about me because, 20 points down, he was worried I might have done something stupid with the phone.
Well, imagine if you'd actually made that effort to go down there.
I would have walked.
Absolutely, you would have walked.
Yeah, Miles said he would have been out of Sandy Park and on the bus home.
Lee would have walked back to his mate's Paddy's house in Columpton at 65 minutes, let alone wait till
And I think actually at this moment we should doff our collective caps to those hardcore fans that went down,
absolutely,
who must have been going through absolute agony,
absolute hell,
and not just the boredom, but just the fact that the disappointment.
It wasn't boring,
no,
because Chiefs were playing brilliantly. I hate to say it. We'll chat about the game, but
go for it, Miles.
You've got some brilliant stats there as well. I mean, just bring up the halftime stats just before we chat.
Yeah, but it's not good. It's not a good read, is it?
No.
Because at halftime, me and the Duchess were watching at home, and fans obviously know this. Chiefs had 83% territory versus 17, 66% possession versus 34. I mean, I thought at half time we were down and out, and the game was gone.
Well, we should say we were, even with those stats, we were only down 3 points at half time, which is unbelievable, really. But I'm glad you brought those stats up because when we talk about the game and the ending, this is exactly what the belief that I've got in this team now, which we've not had over the last few seasons, have we? But those stats are pretty phenomenally against us, aren't they?
Well, I know. Well, Miles, you were watching it live. I mean, we did actually strike early, didn't we? We were leading for quite a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, 9 minutes. Chiefs had a penalty, went 3-0 up, but then we scored from a lovely blindside run from Batley, then to Marmion to score, which was just pretty basic, and then we were 5-3 up. It was out on the sidelines, so AJ missed a kick. So to be fair, the first sort of 10 minutes we were 3-5 up. However, Josh Caulfield then got a yellow card.
I heard it was harsh.
I didn't actually see it. It was just
it was getting in the way of a passing opportunity. Penalty absolutely, but immediate yellow card. Yeah. I thought it was harsh. From the description of the referee, I think you're right. And I think someone put on socials that all he was trying to do was get back on side, which is what you're supposed to do. And I suppose that's classic ref interpretation. And I can sort of see in the heat of the battle, and if he felt that Bristol were a bit under the pump at the time, his assumption is that there was a little, and we do know, let's be honest, that rugby players aren't always sticklers for the rules, are they? And the dark arts is kind of one of the big things. So, I mean, Josh seems like Josh is sometimes, it seems to be at the harsh end of cards there, didn't he? You think about the Connacht game.
He's a bit unlucky, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to go back to the try, because that try that we scored, because I have seen that, and to me, that is classic Bristol, and there was a bit of classic. What we've talked about the system is that Marmion goes blind, and the quick hands to get it out to Batley. So Batley's out there. Batley's not there by chance. That's clearly Batley's there for a reason. Absolutely. And Marmion does what every high class scrum half does. And let's remember, Marmion is a high class scrum half. He's an international scrum half. He's given the original pass, but then he just drifts inside, gambling on the fact that it will get out to the winger, who then that happened to be Batley, who's then got an easy pop inside where the scrum half is on the shoulder supporting. And to me, that was a classic blindside move.
And it did remind me of Joycey. Remember, 100% Joycey on the wing a few times back in the day.
Although, at least to be fair to Batley, he passed the ball backwards this time.
Harsh but true.
Harsh but true. But I was there on that day, and I saw it.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, despite the pressure, that was a. And I imagine if you were fans at the game at the time and you saw that, you think, okay, a bit of pressure, but we've got this in the locker. We know we've got the quality to do it. But as it turned out, Miles, it didn't quite materialise.
Not really, because Chiefs then immediately scored back at about 90 minutes from a really, really quick, what's it called, Paul Brown Bampo, which is one of Chiefs' wingers.
Which John Eagley had said.
Yeah, absolutely. Feu Boso on the other wing. They are two phenomenally quick wingers. And they scored between them, a few tries. Yeah, absolutely. So then Chiefs were back up 8-5. So it really sort of negated our first try. But then there was some really poor decision making then from Bristol. We were really slow at clearing out, running from inside our 22 as Bristol do. But it wasn't really working. It felt like we were running in treacle yesterday. But then, lo and behold, Batley scores another try on the wing at 27 minutes. Yeah. So you can't really knock that. We get the kick, and we're suddenly the lead is with us again, and we're 12-8 up again at 27 minutes.
I know we have got a bit of a wingers crisis, but that is taking it a little bit to the extreme, isn't it? Big Joe, Big Joe has just put his hand up in the meeting and said, "I'll step up. Yeah. I'll be the winger."
He just does what Joe Batley does.
Yeah,
he's a Superman.
And it was a good. That was a well executed try as well, and it created the space.
Sorry to butt in, Pete. I just wondered, Miles, what were your thoughts at that time then? Because I didn't see the game live as well, but you're almost like we're under the pump, but then all of a sudden we're up again. And was it topsy turvy, or was it breakaway tries? And
I don't know, but it's well executed tries like Batley on the wing, etc. But the decision making and the slow clearances and the sometimes poor passing until then gave Exeter the opportunities, and it was pretty even Stevens, to be honest with you. At that point, no side were really dominating. Obviously, come half time, you look at as we discussed the possession and the stats, etc. Yeah. We should not have been only within 3 points at half time. Absolutely shouldn't have been there. But Exeter fluffed a few chances. There were some great cover tackles from Rich Lane. But lo and behold, they did then score before half time with Feu Boso just running through the centre. He's a strong, powerful lad. Did three tackles brushed off him, but he's too good. So I wouldn't say that, they fell off him. He sidestepped a little bit, ran through, 3 missed tackles, and then at half time, Chiefs are back up 15-12. But with those possession stats, it should have been a lot more. Yeah.
I mean, that try you're talking about, I've seen that as well. And he goes around the side of the ruck, doesn't he?
Yeah,
now, and it is easy for us to say, should have had a guard there, 3 tackles. But this guy, we talked about this last week, he is international quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
He wasn't just a good player that happened to be young. He has proven that he is getting actually, and I don't think many wingers would have done that. And I don't think we can be too upset about that happening because he was just class.
I mean, it wasn't like anything like the Sam Harris try.
No,
against us, was it?
You're right. He sort of, he sidestepped, pushed off one sort of someone in the scrum. And then it was hard for the other backs. He picked up speed, and he's a quality operator and straight down the middle.
And the thing is, now that we obviously know that we won the game, I'm actually really pleased that he scored that, because that's only going to be good for England. If he knows he's got that confidence and that ability to play heads up rugby. That it's almost like it was a win-win. Yeah. We won, but it's also it didn't really matter.
We need players like that in the England setup, don't we? One thing I will say, jumping the gun a bit into the second half, but he was a bit of a twat when he scored the second try. His second try.
His little dive.
I just thought, oh, come on, that's like...
Yeah, and TNT sponged it a little bit. They were playing, let's just wait for it. Let's wait for it again. A little dive with the ball.
I just thought, do you know what, that's taken a...
Do you know what, it's very Chris Ashton-esque.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? And everyone thinks he's a twat.
Yeah, and I think maybe, just maybe, Rob Baxter, after the game, would have taken him to one side and said, mate, you're a brilliant player. International quality. We don't do that here.
Was that after he gave Dan Frost a good pasting?
He probably had a few people lined
in
up
front of him
in his office, didn't he?
I think the try scorers, he probably gave a pat on the back. Brown Bampo and
Slam the door and
slam the door on Frost.
I don't think Rob Baxter would like that too much.
Yeah.
I think he's, when you think about how Exeter reached the peak, it wasn't through showboating. It was through hard, quality, direct, well thought out rugby.
Yeah.
But you've got to remember, what's his name? I keep remembering his name.
You've got
Boso, yeah. I mean, he's essentially a student, isn't he? So there was still student elements to him that have been, it was almost like maybe he missed Freshers Week or something when he was there.
He almost was looking for a code, traffic code.
and it was, having said all that, it was some serious swan dive, wasn't it? I mean, he was maybe 7 foot up horizontal. Yeah. I mean, and actually, seriously speaking,
breaking his ribs.
I mean, we saw Bath knock on and drop things. We saw Ollie Hassel-Collins last weekend dropping the ball over the line. That is...
It's a risk.
That worries me a touch about him. And I know we're not really here to talk about Exeter players, but that's when you get too much too quickly. You start to get a little bit of hubris, boys. And I don't want to see that from any rugby, and especially potential England players.
My mate Craig, you served in the parachute regiment. He would have been proud of that dive.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
without a parachute? Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on.
Well, let's get back to. We're at half time.
Anyway, half time.
So half time. I'm on about the 10th.
Exactly. I'm thinking like 15-12 down. This is absolutely fine. But through some poor play, that's okay. And there's a sort of substitute half time. Luatua came off and Dunn came on, and there was a bit of a switch in the back row. An odd one, really, there, but fair play. Unfortunately, then high tackle very early on gave Chiefs another penalty at 42 minutes, and they were 18-12 up. But at that point, that's recoverable. Yeah. Woolmore made some pretty, 2 dropped passes in the whole game. It was dry as a bone, sunny afternoon down there. He didn't have a great game, Woolmore. Hence the 49 minutes. There needed to be something, a bit of a change up, and the change happened quickly. Genge came on for Woolmore, Randall came on for Marmion, and I might say that you look at the second half compared to Marmion, and he was a little bit slow. I mean,
who was
Marmion compared to Randall?
So what you say is Randall
ultimately the catalyst in our win, I believe, was Genge and Randall coming on at 49 minutes. I do not feel we would have increased the pace and won that game without those two on the pitch. They've been away with training with England all week, so they were rested. They probably hadn't trained with the squad, had they at all? But that was it. You could not have left them off the pitch any longer.
At this point, maybe we need to doff our caps
and open one of these cans.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Before I say what I'm going to say, let's all get one of Jamie's cans out. And this is... Thanks very much, Jamie.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3... Anyway, as I was saying,
yes,
we did discuss this thing about putting Genji and Harold Randall on the bench, and actually, in many ways, maybe we should doff our caps to that as a decision. They said it was because they'd been away with England, but a part of me thought that's a bit weird. They know the systems. They in some ways they should have been pumped and ready to go. But maybe this was a little strategic move by Pat to think, I've got some quality replacements for both those players. I trust them. Marmion's international. Woolmore's been playing well.
Absolutely.
And actually, maybe Pat thought, we're going to get a reaction from Chiefs. They were pretty shamed. They were embarrassed in that game last week. And actually, we may get a reaction in the first half, and we may need some heavy artillery to come on.
I guess you could argue though.
So
it didn't really go.
It was a masterstroke.
Yeah, I'm actually saying it could have been a masterstroke.
Yeah.
However, then. Chiefs scored 2 tries.
Yeah, that's the only problem. But then Pat would say, I was looking at the big picture, the whole half, not just the third quarter.
And like we said, stats are stats.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the only stat that means anything is the result at the end of the game.
So
we're so sorry, Mark. So they scored another couple of tries.
Unfortunately, 56 minutes, another really barnstorming run by Paul Brown, Bampo down the wing, just on fire. He does look good, even as another England potential. Really, he's a youngster as well. Isn't
he? You see, I have a problem with this. Is that just because he scored 2 tries, he's not an England potential. He needs to do a little bit more than that. I worry that it annoys me when people get talked about for England, and they have one good game, we never heard the guy before last week, thanks to John Evely. And I mean, Gabs Ibitoye, we may talk about this, has been ripping it up for a season and a half. So I'm always a bit wary and about bigging up players too much too soon. He's undoubtedly a talent.
Yeah.
But we have got a lot of talent. Yeah. And fair play to the lad. He got a brace. Let's leave it at that.
But I mean, it came from 2 missed tackles, AJ and Bates as well. Josh Hodge got the kick. That was 23-12 up. And lo and behold, there's a poor interception pass from AJ and Faye were both. So yet again was on the end of it. But he was in the line defensively. He was great, and we left too big a gap. And then that was Chiefs' bonus point try at 61 minutes, and we were looking down the barrel of a 32-12 scoreline.
And I think I was looking down a dog leg. I was on a par 4 dog leg right, wondering where the hell I was going to hit the ball because it was a very narrow fairway, and that was when I looked and saw we were 12-32 down, and I did think.
Well, you probably thought, I enjoyed the golf at this point.
So anyway, I think I hit a beauty straight down the fairway, and I thought, well, because that was such a good shot, I'll just have another look at the phone, and I suddenly saw, it was on the Bears feed, yellow card.
Dan Frost.
And then it was O'Grey goes over. So I think that was when O'Grey did that. He broke free, didn't he?
Yeah,
and
brilliant.
You know what? I was thinking, maybe.
Well,
10 minutes, basically the rest of the game with an extra man. It's a forward. That's the only thing that worries me is when a forward goes off, you actually can probably cover that. They've got no gaps in the back. So I was kind of excited, but I didn't expect it at all. And then I think pretty much we then putted out, and between that green and the next tee, that's when I saw it, and I could not believe what I was reading. I could not believe it. Now talk me through it. I understand it was it Gabs that scored 2 in that time? Two further ones to make it a hat trick.
So this is an unbelievable stat. We scored 28 points in 14 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's clinical.
I mean that is absolute capitulation.
Surgical.
Absolutely. A capitulation from Chiefs, isn't it? They absolutely imploded when Dan Frost went off 65 minutes.
Do you know what? They did, but I'm gonna spin that on his head slightly, because even though they imploded, right, we still had to be that clinical to win that game.
Agreed.
Because there's not long to go.
You're right. It wasn't
miles behind still.
Yeah.
And I just think maybe I'm just getting too over optimistic, right? But I've just seen things in this squad, right, this season already. And I know it's early days, but I've just seen like a spirit in this squad that really good sides have, and it's that will, that determination that they don't know when they're beat, and there's just something about this team. And I put it in the post article for tomorrow. That they've just got a little glint in their eye that I think we could achieve something this season. I honestly believe that, and we all agree that's a game. I mean, Sandy Park is a nightmare for us anyway, but that's a game that we would have lost.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, we'd have lost that game. Even undoubtedly, the yellow card made a huge difference, without a doubt. But even still, we were so clinical in finishing that. I mean, that's cutthroat.
But also the other thing is that within that kind of maelstrom of points, they also then got a penalty, didn't they? So we went to 33-32, and I didn't see what happened, but we obviously then
Kloska just put a knee to the floor.
Yeah. So it's a scrum penalty. So you can see
in front of the sticks.
Now that could kill the spirit of a few sides. And I thought, and then to score. Now, do you remind me? There was one Ibitoye where he basically ran the whole length of the pitch, and he swerved around. He did an absolute beauty set. But there was one when Randall went and then popped it. Was that the one that won it? I can't remember.
There was a lovely crossfield kick from
the
AJ.
crossfield kick. Yeah,
they just popped.
No, but I'm talking at the end, right at the end. What was the try that won the game?
There was another Jancy van Rensburg slapped down the run side. outside
The run
park.
side. Yeah, I love it. The run
blind
side. That's what we know, but that's what we now call.
Yeah.
The Bristol Bears blind side is known as the run
It's the
side.
run side.
Pop out to Gabs and then a run in again on 70 minutes. I mean, by this point, the Duchess and I, we could not believe what
No,
we
I
were
can
seeing
imagine.
before our eyes on the TV, and we could not believe that. Thought, well, all right, we bonus, a bonus point try is going to come, and then you're absolutely right. Randall snipes down the run side
The
again
run side.
on 76 minutes, pops to Gabs,
Yeah.
and again he runs in at
So it was that
76
one.
minutes.
That was the try.
That was the one, which made us basically 40 points to 35 ahead.
So my point is
on
that
76
that
minutes.
that is high level
Yes.
heads up rugby.
absolutely,
Because and that's Harry Randall spotting that.
Yeah.
He was just brilliant because he changed his angle by only a metre during one extra defender, popped out to Gabs, and
he's clear, he's gone.
absolute genius.
But
Such class.
even more than that, because obviously from the restart, do you want to say this, Mal? In between
We copped this up, didn't we?
we could have still lost the game.
Yeah.
And then Miles, do you want because obviously
And something like Dunn or something like, on a crucial moment, Dunn dropped the restart.
Our really good friend James Dunn.
Yeah, really
And sometimes, the sun got in his eyes. It was like,
He's allowed a mistake.
He's allowed a mistake.
we won the game.
Dunny allowed a mistake. I did see this, and I think they got possession, didn't they? And they were pumping
Yeah.
our line. Now, I didn't realise that until I watched the highlights back.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh my God, even then, I
Yes.
bet everybody's hearts must have been absolutely pounding. And then I think a bit like the Bath game, in that the end of the first half in the Bath game when they were pumping and we got a turnover, we got the same, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think we turned it over.
We turned over quite a bit, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Chiefs must be fuming. We turned over on our line defensively, which was just brilliant. But then you're right. We had 2.5 minutes to run down the clock, and historically we've been great at this, haven't we? Many a year we've just said, stick it under your jersey and just get over the line. So we did this brilliantly. It was something like 78 minutes. So we had 2 minutes to pick and go, to defend the ball, get the ball back, and we did that brilliantly for 1 minute 40 seconds until Fitzharding on the last, we had 12 seconds of proper time to go. He blocked off the Exeter Chiefs and was adjudged to be, blocking the ball, and Chiefs got a penalty on 80 minutes.
But presumably it wasn't kickable. Oh no, they didn't. They had to score, didn't they?
They had to score, so we were obviously 40-35. So they had to go over. And
Did they go to the corner?
Yeah, they went to the corner. They got thrown at the 5 metre line. Chiefs of old would have nailed this.
you would have almost said,
I'm going home. Pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
Chiefs are going to push this over.
Yeah.
To be fair, and what happened is the TNT coverage cut out.
Yeah.
I think for
heard
everyone.
this. Yeah.
So the Chiefs threw the ball. They got the line out. They started moving it towards the sticks in a sort of driving ball format. The coverage cut out.
I heard this.
I could not believe it. I thought, okay, is
that's
it just our iPad or something? Quickly went back on.
Your heart's probably
My heart's thinking, Chiefs are going to get over it because they always get over the line. Anyway, went back on the line, and somehow it was the end of the game, and we'd won. And I had no idea how we did it.
Who got over the ball? It was
Will
over
Capon.
Capon.
So I've gone back on the highlights today. Will Capon, 25th birthday
legend.
yesterday. Will
Happy
Capon with his
birthday,
hat
Will.
on. Pat sent him on at 80 minutes in
his
that
cap on.
last pressure penalty on our 5 metre line. I mean, the support and the backing he had for that boy, phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he disrupted that last tackle, held on to him and drew
Game
a
over.
turnover, game over. And I only found this out watching the highlights
Just
today.
as you're searching for the
Just as-
defibrillator on North Street.
We're a family show, so I won't swear, but bloody TNT. I could not believe it.
Actually, talking about that, there was a little bit of pelters about the commentating, wasn't there, as well on PNT?
I
And
did
no
hear that,
disrespect, but it was a bit. It was a young lady, new
It was a
commentator.
bit amateur, I thought.
I
we
listened
were
to-
on it was on like the red button. It wasn't two commentators that voices I recognised.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's Claire Thomas. I think
Claire
she was
Thomas,
called,
that's
yeah.
it.
She was very clear, but
I
I
thought-
think I felt, and this is harsh because
Yeah.
these are professionals. it was a little bit over prescribed. It felt like she had a lot of phrases that she wanted to try. It was a little bit too over the top.
Yeah,
too
many. Absolutely.
And I think, and I do love the fact. Again, we have to have a caveat on this that they are trying to draw more people into the game and to make it exciting. And actually, sometimes being overly kind of boring and technical is not something that is good. No. But I just think there was quite a lot of comments about that actually on the forum.
Because it was too much, Pete.
It was too much.
It was too much.
And you know, the people, she was a very good speaker. She spoke very clearly, very enthusiastic. But I just think that's something you've just got to get those balances right.
Yeah, just tone it down slightly. That's all I thought. Just you don't have to throw that many in.
Well, boys, I mean,
lo and behold, there we are.
A load of puns into column.
Who would do that?
I mean, exactly. So there you go. Going back to the game, beer was flying, nuts were flying around the room, So,
your sort of touches it.
Well, they're in a bowl, mate. We were having beer and nuts watching the game. Nuts went everywhere, and cock a hoop. We could not believe at the death that we pulled that one back. An absolutely phenomenal win.
I mean, like you saying, Pete, I mean, you imagine like you were there live seeing that. I mean, you've gone through every single emotion you can in a rugby match there, haven't you? You've gone from despondency. Miles was right. I would have walked.
He would have walked 65 minutes, wouldn't you? Yeah.
You've gone through that despondency.
I'd have been trying to call Lee back. Said, turn back, mate, turn back.
You know what I mean? Frustration of it, and then to come back at the end like that, and you'd just be.
But that teaches us all a lesson, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
Is that we have to, and we have to go to the full game. And we've had a few moments ourselves at Ashton Gate when we've been a bit kind of. I remember getting told off by someone unnamed sits in front of me for being
Louise.
Too negative. And actually she's always been right, and I try my best and not always perfect, but we do have to keep the faith right to the end. Whatever, home and away, and judge it on its merit.
We'll talk about this when we mention the Sarries, won't we? About like our kind of game plan.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think we've done justice to that. I think
a few more sort of highlights. I'd like to say, some of a few comments in the week. Some of the academy youngsters, they had to step up this week. Obviously the fans know about the injuries to Jimmy Williams and Max Malins from the Bath game last week. So Jenkins stepped up. We had a debut from Ben Elizad this week.
Cool. He came on.
Youngster Argentinian. So that was good to know. I mean, he was only on for about 5-10 minutes, but
experience.
And it's hard to see. It was a topsy-turvy game by them. So good experience for him. And the youngsters stepped up, and I'm afraid.
And we know Bates came on.
And he made some great tackles. So. Great for sort of the future, really.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think, because I did mention that in the post today, actually, just bizarrely, me and Miles hadn't spoken about any of that before, but just the fact that, we have got a small squad, but these guys are stepping up, and we need them to do that, because we can't always rely on the big names. No. And I just think we've got such a good spirit down at
none of us saw two injuries coming out of one game in last weekend, did we? I mean, it was
big injuries as well.
It felt like a bit of a blow, didn't it, coming out of that Bath game, losing, two of our key players from last week who are out potentially till like November, December, isn't it? Is it a pec injury to Jimmy and a knee injury? Young Harris in the same tackle got injured for Bath last week.
We said last week that Jimmy's looked bad, didn't it? But I mean, Malins was.
We didn't even know about that.
We didn't know about that.
Absolutely.
Well, the upshot of this whole situation and the results today is that we are currently
still top of the table. End of the weekend.
We are top of the table.
Fair play, Quins, who did one by some massive defensive effort over Sarries.
So today. I think we're on 17 points. And interestingly enough, one of the reasons we're on the top is because of our bonus points. Which is
something of a novelty for Bears fans.
And then, of course, you start thinking, well, what if we'd actually won that Gloucester game, which perhaps we should have won, we'd be even better. But anyway, there you go. So I don't think, realistically, boys, did you think that after 4 games,
not at all,
we would be top of the table?
Not
with
at
that? No, I don't think we'd have thought that either. Even though we had a reasonably good start. But, you always got doubt, haven't you?
More importantly, I think we all agree now, we've got our identity back. And
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
that clarity and identity is everything that we were asking for. And Pat Lamb's delivered on that, and the team are really firing.
Yeah. So on that note, that's a nice little segue to sort of to mention, obviously, let's just slightly burst all that optimism
down to ground
by thinking
again.
about the next fixture.
Should we come down to ground like a Elon Musk rocket or something?
Which is obviously, as all listeners will know, is we are looking forward in kind of inverted commas to the next game, which is a home game. It's actually a double header against Saracens. The women's game starts at 12 o'clock.
It does, yeah.
And the men's game is at 3:05. And boys, I don't know, you must have noticed this, that they have opened the Atio.
I did notice it, yes.
And it's a £20 ticket for...
So not quite what we asked. Oh, okay.
For both games.
Okay, fair play.
And it's a double header. Now, there was some questioning on for social this week about could you go in and out with the £20 ticket, or could you, if you're there for the double header for all of us, can we leave halfway?
Yeah, that's a
and
long
go back
shout
out?
from 12 till 5.
So
good
I'm
shout.
not quite sure the answer on that, but I'm sure someone will know. But actually, I don't know. We have campaigned for the Atio to be used as a kind of atmosphere stand with a cheap price to get people in under the
Normals.
knowing under the kind of the conditions that there probably won't be a lot in there.
One bar.
It's that sort of thing.
One toilet.
It's brilliant.
So I think it's a really good initiative.
Yeah.
It's Family Day anyway. It's been advertised as Family Day. So I think it's a fantastic initiative. So anybody who's listening to this, I would urge you to take up this offer because we want as many people down the gate and in the Atio as we can.
On that note, we should say, because we've had one of our brilliant listeners has said about the motorway closing, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
now.
I'll mention it now. So for those that are listening, and if there are any Saracens fans listening, you may do, there was a heads up from one of our listeners, which was that there are going to be roadworks next week on the M4 on the Saturday. He says very, very quickly, just looking it up. Here we go. It came from Sean Harris. Thank you very much, Sean. Came to us on Messenger. Morning, Pete. Bit of a public service announcement for anyone attending the Sarries game and coming from East Bath, Bristol or north of the M4 Yate area. On the weekend of the 18th to the 21st, the M4 will be shut and major delays are expected. This will also affect Sarries players and fans. So if you get a guest from them on the next pod, it might be worth giving them the heads up. Right, I'm off to read the Post article. Cheers, Drive. Good lad. But actually...
Well, we don't mind upsetting the Sarries players.
It's a public service announcement, and we could, add that to the Fezcast fans.
Having said all that, there will be Sarries fans travelling, and we're fans all together. We know what the misery of it like if you spent a whole day out planned and it all goes wrong. So whilst this is just it's been sent to us, I at the very least urge people to check.
Yeah.
I'm sure the National Highways website will give more
Do you think
information.
he works for National Highways?
I don't know.
Did you see
and do you know what, Miles? I don't care.
Yeah.
It was just...
I'm going to spend...
put it out there,
we just put it out there.
I'm going to segue for only 10 seconds into this point. Did you see in the week something from the RFU potentially about offering segregation of...
I did.
Let's talk about that in a minute at the end.
Okay. Did you?
Let's talk about the end.
Maybe at the
because
end.
Talking about segues, really, what we should be segueing into is the fact that
Our
we are
friends
playing
at
Saracens
Fezcast.
next week. And in order to preview this game, I've managed to stitch together this weekend.
Stitch up?
Despite... No, not stitch up. Stitch together this weekend. Despite being away for the whole weekend, I have managed to get a Pete's Premiership preview with a good friend of the pod. He's been on before.
AI robot.
It is Jez from the Fezcast pod.
Jez from Fez.
Jez from Fez.
Seamless.
So before we discuss the game, let's have a little think, or let's have a little listen. To what Jez has got to say.
Okay, hi Jez. I hope you're well and that the pod is going from strength to strength. My first question to you is a general one. How did Sarries restructure their squad over the summer in terms of new players coming in and or young ones stepping up from the academy?
Well, hi Pete, and thank you very much for having us back on your excellent podcast. I hope you enjoyed the summer off and enjoying the start of the season. Yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it? I suppose you can't talk about Saracens this season without mentioning the fact that we've got some big names now that have departed and big boots to fill. At least not, of course, our former skipper Owen Farrell. I think what the club have done is, when they realised that was going to happen, is they were very clever in where they've gone and almost changed a little bit of the way that we play. Not a revolution in any ways, more an evolution, but certainly with Fergus Burke, we've got a young, hungry fly half coming in who is not Owen Farrell, and the club have been very, very keen to make sure that that's the message that gets out. And, you know, he's playing in a slightly different way, perhaps a lot more explosive pace, less kicking, you know, a lot of different things. I mean, how do you replace Owen Farrell? The answer is you don't. You just change the way you go. But also, I think, you know, the club has been bringing through a few signings over the years, players that have come through and really established themselves. And I mean, if you look at our back row, I mean, what a back row we've got. So many choices. Juan Martin Gonzalez, Ben Earl, Tom Willis, Andy Onyama Christie, Theo McFarlane. I mean, it's an abundance of talents there, which has started the season fantastically well. Young players, well, we can't not mention Tobias Elliott, can we, on a rich vein of form, and has really taken an opportunity presented to him with both hands and has done extremely well.
Oh, great stuff. We're actually talking before you play Quins this weekend, but regardless of that result, you have made a really strong start to this season. Has this surprised you at all? And what sort of game plan is Mark McCall trying to instigate?
Well, that's an interesting question, Pete. And I suppose the answer to that is, at the start of the season, we weren't entirely sure what we were going to get. And, you know, the sensible thoughts were it would probably be a season of rebuilding. It might well be a season of managing expectations, and understanding that maybe we wouldn't be as dominant as we have been in previous seasons. I think I've been posted on Facebook after the first 3 games, comment about the one thing that's disappointed me is how badly we've managed those expectations, because we have come out of the traps flying, as you say, with 3 bonus point wins, regardless of what happens against Quins. It just proves, I think, that I don't know what it proves, really. I mean, we've got us a bit confused, a bit surprised. I think the Gloucester game, you know, we played against them. They didn't turn up for 40, 50 minutes. But then subsequently, they have played really well in games. Chiefs just never fired a shot at us. And Sale were a little bit the same, although they did lose a couple of very key players in that game. So I'm not entirely certain what it is saying. What I do think, probably with no disrespect to those other 3 teams, is the fact that Quins, which we're waiting for the result on, and yourselves at Ashton Gate, will probably be slightly tougher challenges. So perhaps after these 2 games, we'll have a greater idea of where we actually are in comparison to where we thought we would be. Mark McCall, however, and the team definitely, as I said in the previous answer, are evolving the way that we play, and it's great to see, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, with the young talent coming through, with the players we've got, I think in attack we are playing with a lot more speed, and so far, fingers crossed for Quinn's accuracy. And then in defence, I think that's where the biggest change is, because, you know, the defence was always the big thing for Saracens. But I think now is that they've been a lot more exciting in defence almost. Is that a weird thing to say? And in so much, it's almost allowing gaps, thinking that, yeah, okay, we can cover this, but if you do score 3 tries, we'll score 4, sort of thing. And I think that, you know, is all to the good for Saracens. It definitely shows a big development in the way that we're playing the game.
Ashton Gate has been a pretty happy hunting ground for you boys in recent seasons, not least last year when we were on our push to the playoffs. How do you see your team trying to maintain this winning record next weekend? And what weaknesses in the Bears might you try and exploit?
Well, again, Pete, as I said in my previous answer, I think in defence, Saracens are opening up gaps that perhaps weren't there in previous seasons. And Bristol, again, have always had those gaps in defence. So I think the game on the weekend could easily see a very high-scoring game. And it could be, 45-42 either way. I definitely think that Saracens have got the firepower to cause Bristol Bears an awful lot of problems. But then again, the Bears have got an awful lot of firepower to cause us problems. I just think it's going to be an absolutely cracking game and has the potential to be the best game of the season so far.
And finally, it's actually a double header next weekend, as you know, with the women's teams playing each other before the men. Could you give us a brief overview of how your women's team is set up and their hopes for the season? Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. And of course, Bears women versus Saracens women is going to be a huge match and potentially the most significant match of the two that will be seen at your ground. The guys won't hark back in public to the semi-final at StoneX last season, but that lit a fire in a few bellies. And given that, obviously both sides are going to be missing some very big name players are away with the WXV, still there's a lot that rankles over that performance. Bristol Bears came to StoneX and beat up Saracens last season, so I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis on righting those wrongs. As for this season, they've started fantastically well, like the men, currently unbeaten, which we know following the PWR Cup and then the first two league fixtures, beating Sale quite comprehensively away from home on Saturday, yesterday, as we're recording Sunday, obviously. The players that have come through, the young players, the more squad players, shall we say, have really stepped up and are beginning to take their opportunities to show that they are there on merit, not just because players are away. And I'm sure Bristol have got the same attitude as well, and players doing the same thing. So again, I think it's going to be a huge, huge game. And very significant. And, as I said about the men's game that follows it, the potential to be one of the games of the season.
Right, boys. Well, there you go. There's Jez. What a great bit of forensic analysis he did for us, and as do all of our guests who come on the pod. But you sort of
picked up on
something, didn't you?
I don't know what the listeners think, but when I was listening to Jez, I kind of had this picture of this big guy with a massive beard.
I think you're right.
Who sounded a little bit like Hugo Monia.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree with that. No,
there was definitely a bit of TNT kind of punditry in that voice.
But you sounded
I think
a bit
you're right.
different.
Can I pick up on something else from that interview? Pete sounded a bit like Crichton from Red Dwarf for that interview, wasn't he? I was going to say Holly from Red Dwarf.
I know what you're saying,
explain
Miles.
yourself.
And for those listeners who've never watched Red Dwarf, the younger listeners, because we do have a few, apparently, Crichton was like some sort of like robot stroke AI-generated human before AI was a thing. And I have to hold my hands up to the listeners because I think we're all about honesty.
Yeah,
it's that because I was away on the golf weekend, I was unable to talk to Jez direct. So basically, we hatched this plan that I would send him 3 questions on WhatsApp, video, like audio questions, and then he would then...
In the form of Crichton from Red Dwarf.
And he would then respond as if we were... And then, fair play to Jez, he snipped the whole thing together as one MP3 that's just come back. But of course, it does make me sound a little bit like an AI-generated interviewer. So I do kind of apologise, but at the end of the day, I did it so that we could deliver.
Mate, listen...
No apology needed, mate. You delivered.
Lee, if we don't play golf, but if we were on a golfing weekend with a hangover in a hotel at 6:30 a.m, would we have had our shit together to do something like that?
I don't think we would have,
Absolutely.
even if we weren't playing golf. And we didn't have a hangover. I still wouldn't think we'd deliver. So well done, Teach.
Doff our cap to Teach.
Well, anyway, let's very quickly comment on some of the things that Jez
said.
said.
It's really important.
Let's go for it.
Lee, what did you pick up on that? Anything in particular?
Yeah, I just picked up on it. It was quite worrying when he's saying like it's a faster brand of rugby coming from Saracens. I mean, obviously the old guard going. We kind of knew they bring the youngsters through, but they seem to have come on a little bit quicker, and they're a little bit oven ready before we were probably expecting them to be. So I do agree with Jez. I think it could be a really high scoring game. I would say though, we have to play our way. We still have to play our way. I think that's really important. We set our stall out. All right, we will need a plan B on occasion, but I still think we have to go out and play the way we've played right on this season. And I think if we lose the game playing that way, I'll still be happy.
Miles, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I've written him a little notebook. I think we need, from the Chiefs game I watched yesterday, we need to tighten up on our defensive fixes when Sarries comes to town next weekend. But that sort of goes against what Lee says. But, it's a debate, really, that if we change our game plan, it'll be curtains, won't it? And the Sarries will walk all over us. You're right. I mean, we didn't see the Quins game today, but it would appear that Quins put a massive defensive effort in. It wasn't a high-scoring game, 17-10. So they did something well. Pat will no doubtedly look at that. And you're right, but we need to, play our game, but there'll be a little bit. I mean, I saw some chinks in our armour yesterday at Chiefs that were like, weren't great really, and we need to tighten up on our speed. But that came when Genge and Randall came on. I mean, we cannot start with our sort of bench players against Sarries next Saturday. The best players have got to start them out. This is Sarries coming to town. We were on a massive winning streak last season. They came in second to last game of the season, and they schooled us. So you're right. Something's got to change, and we've got to play the Bears' way.
I do agree, though, as well. Like, I know me and Miles don't agree very often, but defensively, we do need to tighten up. I think we all agree, but I just don't know if we can.
No.
That's the thing.
Maybe not.
Harlequins could. And obviously it did work perfectly well today against Sarries, but I just don't know if we got the personnel to be able to do that.
But I do think that, we're working hard about being tight, with or without the ball, or without the ball.
Yeah.
And of course, the trade-off that when you're trying to attack all the time is that you've got to make sure the back door's shut as well. And it's a really, 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 really hard balance to get.
It is.
And I agree with all of you. I think Jez summarised it perfectly. Is that it should be a cracker of a game because Sarries are going to come to play because they've got confidence. They've got that young winger Tobias Elliott, who's going to want to run. We've got fantastic wingers. I just think it could be a really good game. I think it's going to be a stressful game again.
Oh, absolutely.
But then again, this is what we're in. We want, we want
excitement
to win close games if we can against quality opposition, and it's our time now.
One thing I would say, I think is going to be value for money for sure.
So on that note, I'll just promote the fact that it's 20 quid again for the Atio.
Can I just to promote that it's £1 a kid under 12, so this is a full-on family affair. I'm having to bring my entire family, excluding the Duchess, because she's away on a
hang on, that
jolly
can't be
weekend.
your entire family then.
Well, no, but she's on a jolly weekend away with your partner as well, Pete, isn't she?
Yeah, so I had to bring my family as well. Although my daughter has already got a season to go older, but
So
the
is
other
mine.
daughter's coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm bringing my son and my daughter. Peter, you're bringing your two daughters. And I'm bringing a friend and
So we are literally living
we are babysitting
day.
at Ashton Gate next weekend.
You can babysit your own kids, boys.
Exactly, it's family day, and we are bringing our families.
Yes,
and I want to.
And that's exactly what the club wants us to do.
Love it, absolutely.
Right, boys. Well, I think,
and you're also bringing me, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, it is. Well, yes, we are.
That's a given, mate. You miss one game.
But I mean, I don't think we're going to bother with predictions. I think in terms of predictions, I think we've said it's going to be close.
It's
going to be a great game of rugby. We hope.
Okay, I've got a prediction.
Go for it.
there's going to be at least 80 points.
Wow.
At least.
Yeah, you could be right.
There you
Could
go.
be right.
We'll
pal.
leave it at that. Because I never really liked the prediction thing. It was a thankless task.
All I can, well, I mean, we're just going to hope that the double header brings a great crowd. We're going to hope that the women's, the people interested in watching the women's game stay on for the men's game.
Yeah.
And I will predict massive beer queues and slow beer pouring. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we're going to move to any other business. But I'm going to start with a Saturday-related any other business. And despite the slight issues we've had with me understanding what contract I actually drew up with Dave Atwood, one thing I do know for sure, because that was actually said by Dave to Jamie last week at the Rec, is that if you go to the Aperol bar, which is going to be somewhere in the fan village, and you say that you're a Bears Beyond the Gate listener, but you say, quote, I love dry robes, you will get, I'm going to say, discount on your drink. Now,
Variable discount, possibly.
And that is, I'm going to stand by that now, boys.
Yes,
I'm standing by it.
And we're all three of us are behind you this time.
So go up, say hello to Dave or whoever's there, and say that you listen to Bears Beyond the Gate and you love dry robes. Even if you don't, you just have to say it. Depends how much you want the discount. All right. So that's
how
good.
much you want an Aperol.
But I would also say in sort of to balance it out, you should also go down to the Bristol Beer Factory pop-up
beer kiosk,
beer
which
kiosk
is in
as
the fan
well,
village.
because we also like to support that. And perhaps why not have a Bristol Beer Factory pint and then get a cocktail,
on the way in.
warmer or a
Get a
chaser
warmer,
with it, and kill two birds with one stone and keep all of our friends happy.
I might even do that myself.
I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. So that's that. So that was our first bit of any other business. Because we're on a positive note, we did actually have a message from a supporter who said that they loved the goats, but from time to time he felt that we should have an anti-goat. In other words, a positive thing. And I'm just trying to find out who it was who said it. Basically, somebody got in contact with us and just wanted to say...
That's a positive. Can you remember who it is?
I'm trying to remember who it is. But somebody got in contact to say that he'd had a really good experience with the supporters services and had sorted him out.
I saw this.
And, just wanted to basically say...
An issue with digital tickets, and they did him, they did him a really kind effect and said, sent them an email, here's the ticket to print at home, because... Again, not all fans have a smartphone with NFC. You can, need a paper ticket, don't they? So fair play.
So surely that's just them doing their job, isn't it?
Yeah, but they've been a bit. I've phoned up in the past, and they're a bit slow to answer. So if that's improved,
but that's them not doing their job.
Yeah, but if that's improved, then that's feedback.
I'm not having it.
That's feedback from fans.
I'm not having an anti-gate like that. I'm sorry, fellas.
Okay,
well, you can read it out, Pete, if you got it. But
I know. I'm trying to. I should have got more organised. So whoever it was who sent it to me, I really apologise, but I've had a weekend away.
It was that. I think it was indeed that the supporters, it
might have been on Instagram actually. I'm just quickly looking at my social.
Fan services had been extremely helpful. I think that was the feedback.
It was something positive, and I think we do like to be balanced as best we can. So that's that done. A couple of other things just to finish off. On last week we played Pat's post-match interview, he was asked kind of halfway through it, why was it that we had such a good away record? And we sort of felt Pat wasn't really ready for that question and had said something like, well, people don't expect us to win, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, on the ITV Premiership Unleashed highlights package that was on Wednesday, and I think you can watch it on ITV, ITVX catch up. There was quite a big analysis by a guy called Rugby Nors, who is a social media rugby analyst, a bit like Squidge Rugby. That guy, he's brilliant. He's really good. And Matt Crew as well. He actually analysed to a real detail why it was we had won all these games, and he came up with some really, really good ideas. And basically, to summarise it, and I would encourage you to go and watch it yourself because I'm not sure my summary is particularly good. But he basically said we just went for it. We go for it. We don't go into a lot of teams go to soak up pressure away from home and don't really go to win, but it's almost like we go to win games. And I think that fits in with this identity that's happened in the second half of last season.
Absolutely.
And we go in to try and play rugby.
Yeah, and you couldn't even like. It's not like a counter-attacking team, is it? No. Almost, because we do go for it. It's like a counter-attacking
and he said
team
that,
defends and then
he said that
goes.
He said the interesting was that it's kind of common belief that at international level, statistically speaking, you win more games if you are statistically speaking, you win more games if you kick the ball. You win more games if you kick the ball. But actually, his point was at Premiership level, that's not necessarily the case at all, and we have kicked less, and all this sort of stuff. So I think it was interesting, and he was really good, Rugby Norse. Fair play to him. He done some analysis.
We do love a stat, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final thing I wanted to bring up just before we finish was a very good friend of mine, James Hobbs, drove me all the way to Derby and back again for the golf weekend. And he comes down the gate from times. He's a kind of fair weather rugby fan, but he does like coming down. Yeah. But he mentions the fact that he lives in Nailsea. He mentioned the fact that his wife has just started going to the Nailsea and Backwell Rugby Club mixed walking rugby training. Yeah. And they are known as the Silver Ravens because Nailsea and Backwell Rugby Club are known as the Ravens. So the Silver Ravens are the walking rugby section of the club. And it's mixed.
Nice.
And he said it's amazing because his wife has shown no interest in rugby for about 20 years since they've been married. I mean, some people would say she's shown no interest in him either for 20 years. But now...
When you say some people, do you mean you?
I think a lot of people, in fact himself, James himself, has said... But seriously speaking, because he did say to me, don't make it a jokey thing when you said it. So I'm joking about him, but actually in all seriousness, what an amazing initiative from Nailsea and Backwell Rugby Club, the Ravens, that they have got this fantastic walking rugby section going on, and they are clearly attracting a whole range of people. So if you are in that kind of
age bracket
demographic, and the silver thing is
rugby,
the silver bit is the hint. Yeah. So the silver bit being the hint, then why not get down to Nailsea and Backwell Rugby Club and have a go?
Fair play.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And like you say, Pete, any interest in rugby can only do good, can it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And on the basis of that, there's a good chance that Hobbsy's wife will come down to the gate.
Yeah,
and watch
absolutely.
Rugby.
And that's how it works.
And I think that's really important. We talk about marketing, we're talking about the Premiership product, we talk about how we're going to grow rugby, but actually you grow rugby by generating interest at the grassroots level.
i.e. Family Day.
Family Day.
Absolutely.
And then, but families who have got the mums involved in a rugby club doing this sort of thing will then be more willing to say, let's all get down there together. So massive big up to Nailsea and Backwell, the Ravens, massive big up to the Silver Ravens. But boys, on that note, I think we need to call it a night.
One final note, obviously, to many a listener and all the fans, just to say that all three of us will be down at the gate next Saturday for the Saracens game. Don't fear us. We might be walking around with a little recording device. And if you fancy chatting to us about rugby or beer or anything else in your life, come and say hello. And, you might actually get on the pod following week.
Brilliant.
Good shout,
Miles. That's a good shout, Miles.
That's a nice brilliant ending.
It's a very good ending. So everybody, have a great week. Keep safe and...
Come on, Bears.